To see the lie that feels true, we have to go back to how memories are built. A face that wasn't there, eyewitness crisis. Courtrooms reward confidence. Jurors lean toward the person who doesn't hesitate, who points and says, "That's him." The stakes couldn't be higher, a human life on one side and the natural limits of memory on the other. But confidence isn't accuracy, it's a feeling. And that feeling gets shaped quietly by the way we're asked to remember. Lineup seems straightforward, but the details matter. Was the lineup administered double-blind, so the officer didn't know who the suspect was? Were the fillers, those non-suspect faces, matched to the description, or did the suspect stand out? Was the witness told the culprit might not be present? A small suggestion turns a search for memory into a test of forced choice. Meanwhile, post-event feedback, "Good job, you picked the same person as others," inflates confidence without changing the underlying accuracy. The witness walks away feeling more certain than when they entered, and that certainty shows up on the stand. While that was happening in one city after a robbery, a different story was unfolding in a lab. Researchers tracked how simple wording alters recall. Asked, "Did you see the gun?" and you imply there was a gun. Asked, "Did you see a gun?" and you leave room for uncertainty. That single article can shift not just the answer, but the witness's memory trace. What nobody knew at the time was how often these tiny nudges ripple through real cases. The Innocence Project has a statistic that lands like a gavel. A large majority of DNA exonerations involved eyewitness misidentification. In many of those cases, the witness was certain. Families believed them. Prosecutors trusted them. The people identified looked a lot like the memory that had been built piece by unreliable piece. When DNA later contradicted the ID, it didn't mean the witness lied. It meant the brain had stitched a plausible story from limited, stressful perception. Here's a micro-story that keeps repeating with new names. A victim sees a flash of a face under flickering streetlight. The assailant's jacket is bright. The weapon demands attention. Heart rate spikes. Days later, after looking through mug books, the victim feels a sudden flare of recognition. In a lineup, the same face feels familiar. In court, confidence has crystallized. Years pass. A lawyer pushes for DNA testing. The lab returns an exclusion. The person in prison didn't leave the biological evidence. The victim's remorse is real. The certainty was real. But the face wasn't. Two well-studied complications make this even harder. Weapon focus pulls attention toward danger and away from faces, reducing the quality of encoding when identification matters most. And the cross-race effect, the robust finding that people are on average worse at distinguishing faces from racial groups other than their own, quietly reduces accuracy in diverse communities. Layer stress onto these, and the odds slide further away from truth. Meanwhile, something else is happening behind the scenes. Confidence calibration drifts with social cues. When witnesses receive confirming feedback, that's the person we suspected. Their reported confidence at the time of identification tends to inflate. Later, they'll say they were sure from the start. But there's a catch. When identifications are collected with clean procedures and the first confidence statement is recorded immediately, early high confidence can correlate with higher accuracy. That subtlety gets lost when feedback, repeated viewings, or media exposure reframe the memory. Lineups themselves can be traps if they're built poorly. If one photo stands out, different lighting, a distinctive feature, a unique background, the witness may choose the odd one out rather than matching memory. Sequential presentation can help by forcing a yes-no decision on each face instead of encouraging relative judgment among a group. Double-blind administration prevents inadvertent cues. Proper fillers make sure more than one person could plausibly fit the description. Then there's the language. Which one is the guy? Assumes he's there. Do you recognize anyone? Allows for absence. That difference protects a witness from the social pressure to choose. The brain is a story-seeking machine. Given a forced plot, it finds a lead character. From the juror's perspective, the theater of certainty is persuasive. A witness who meets the defendant's eyes and says, "I will never forget that face," sounds like evidence itself. But memory isn't a camera, it's a reconstruction service. Every recall is an edit, and some edits harden into convictions, legal and personal. In the aftermath of wrongful convictions, reforms followed. Some departments adopted double-blind lineups and standardized instructions. Some prosecutors recorded initial confidence statements. Courts started allowing expert testimony on memory science. But the problem didn't vanish because the core issue isn't just procedure. It's the biology of how minds build the past. Get this. If memory can buckle in the quiet seriousness of a courtroom, what's it doing to our everyday lives where nobody's taking notes? The same mechanisms that distort identifications are working on your stories about last weekend, your arguments, your first impressions. The same feeling of certainty that swayed a jury is steering your judgments at dinner. To understand why, we need to leave the witness stand and walk into the editing room inside your head, where every memory is being rebuilt even as you reach for it. Memory isn't a camera, it's a story editor. To see the lie that feels true, we have to watch how memories are built. Your brain doesn't press record. It sketches. First comes encoding, snapshots of features, not a full panorama. Under pressure, it grabs what seems useful and compresses everything else. Then storage, where those sketches get filed alongside older patterns. Finally, retrieval, which isn't playback. It's reconstruction. You rebuild the past with fragments guided by what usually happens, what you expect, and what still makes sense now. Schemas do that heavy lifting. They're your mental templates for restaurants, classrooms, first dates, arguments. They save energy by filling gaps with the typical. If you were in a diner with chrome stools, your schema supplies the ketchup bottle, even if you never glanced at it. That guess is efficient. It's also how errors sneak in. When you later remember the ketchup, you're recalling the story your brain made coherent, not the raw scene. Here's where it gets more precise. Fuzzy trace theory says you store two kinds of traces: verbatim, the exact details, and just the meaning. Verbatim fades quickly, just lingers. You remember that you argued about money, but the exact words are gone. You recall a seminar was exciting, but misplaced who asked a sharp question. Because just outlasts verbatim, your reconstructions lean on the broad strokes and patch the specifics with best guesses. The result feels complete because meaning is intact. Now think about retelling. Every time you share a story, you're not just transmitting a memory, you're editing it. You emphasize beats that landed with your friend, trim slow parts, and sharpen the punchline. The next time you recall it, those edits are easier to access than the original moment. Rehearsal makes stories better to hear and worse as records. That's why your college tale has a cleaner arc each year while drifting from the messy truth. In daily life, this plays out in tiny ways you don't notice. You walk into a familiar conference room and later remember the whiteboard notes that were actually erased. You swear your coworker wore the blue jacket because that's their usual look, but today it was gray. You recall saying, "Let's table this," when you actually said, "Let's circle back." The meaning was delayed. The phrasing got rewritten to fit your style. Why does the brain do this? Because precision is expensive. You need time, attention, and storage to keep every detail. Instead, your mind trades precision for speed and coherence. It compresses like a good editor, preserving meaning and flow so you can act. That's adaptive most of the time. You don't need to remember the exact position of every coffee mug in your kitchen, just the gist of where things usually are. When a detail matters, though, like the exact words in a contract, those shortcuts bite. Meanwhile, something else is guiding the edits, your current beliefs. Retrieval is influenced by who you are now. If you see yourself as decisive, you'll recall past hesitations as quicker. If you've grown skeptical of someone, you'll reinterpret old conversations through that lens. The memory gets updated to match the present version of you. It keeps your identity consistent, but it drifts from the original. There's a catch with filling in the blanks. It isn't random. It's constrained by plausibility. You rarely invent a pink elephant in the boardroom. You add plausible chairs, likely phrases, ordinary weather. That's why the results feel so trustworthy. Everything fits. The fit itself becomes evidence in your mind. We're not helpless here. When you want higher fidelity, separate gist from verbatim on purpose. After a meeting, jot the exact phrasing of key decisions before. You summarize meaning. When you study, store precise dates and definitions separately from the story. You're building two parallel traces so one doesn't overwrite the other. And when you recount an event, mark what you saw versus what you inferred. That simple tag keeps edits from masquerading as facts during later recall. Here's a quick human moment. You're late, hustling out the door. You remember your wallet on the dresser because that's where it lives. In the car, it's gone. You backtrack and find it on the kitchen counter under yesterday's mail. Your brain supplied the schema-consistent location to keep life moving. 99 times out of 100, that's helpful. On the 100th, it's a false memory that makes you miss a train. What nobody tells you is that memory's job isn't to archive, it's to predict. Reconstructions are guesses about what must have happened, given your traces and your models of the world. When those models are strong, you're fast and effective. When the stakes demand detail, you need a different mode. Slow down, capture verbatim, reduce later edits. But there's one more force in the editing room: suggestion. When external cues slip into your reconstruction, you can't always tell whose idea became your memory, a classic source monitoring problem. If the story's a draft, who else gets to hold the pen? We're about to find out what happens when a single word nudges the entire scene. Planting memories, the misinformation effect. A single word can bend a memory. Ask people about a car crash and swap hit for smashed, and their answers shift. Speeds go up. Some later remember shattered glass that never existed. That classic finding isn't trivia. It's a map of how suggestion slips into recall and rewrites what feels real. The stakes are personal and social. A leading question can co-author your past with you. Here's what's happening under the hood. When you retrieve a memory, you open a file that isn't read-only. It's editable. External cues, question wording, headlines, photos, other people's stories, arrive right as the file is open. Your brain tries to make a coherent scene from partial data, and suggestion provides convenient pieces. Close the file, and some of those pieces save. Weeks later, you'll swear they were always there. Consider the original lab scene. Volunteers saw a short film of a car accident. Later, one group got, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? Another heard hit. The smash group recalled higher speeds. When asked days later about broken glass, they said yes more often, even though there was none. A verb changed a number and implanted a detail that matched the new story. The mind prefers a scene that fits. That leads to source monitoring errors, confusing where a detail came from. Did you see the broken glass, or did the suggestion about smash make you picture it and later mislabel that image as perception? When you're retrieving, imagination, inference, and true perception are all present. Their tags blur under repetition, fatigue, or stress. The more plausible the detail, the easier it slides across that boundary. Social influence adds power. After an event, people talk. One confident voice, I definitely saw the red jacket, can spread that red jacket to others' memories. The group isn't lying, they're aligning. This memory conformity effect grows when the detail fills a gap or reduces uncertainty. Add photos and headlines, and you've got strong rehearsal. Captions act like suggestions with costumes. The suspect fled North Paris with a stock image, and later the image feels like something you witness. Interview protocols exist to fight this. Open-ended prompts, tell me everything you remember, start to finish reduce suggestion by letting witnesses drive recall. Cognitive interviews prompt context reinstatement, smells, sounds, the feel of the air, because reinstating context can cue more accurate details without leading content. Double-blind procedures mean the interviewer doesn't know the answer and can't send signals. The rule is simple. Don't add ingredients while the memory is open. Micro-story time. 2 siblings grew up with a dog that ran away when they were young. Years later, the older one tells the younger a favorite version. Remember when we found him behind the supermarket after 3 days? The younger laughs, nods, retells it at family dinners. A decade on, he can see the supermarket wall and the wagging tail. Then someone finds the old vet records, no recovery, just a move. The feeling of reunion was real. It came from a story rehearsed into memory. Contamination pathways are everywhere. Headlines compress ambiguity into clean narratives. Photos show angles you never saw and get bound to your memory as if you were there. Friends' stories fill in your gaps. Even your own prior retellings become sources. The moment you describe an event in a way that lands well, you increase the odds you'll remember that description next time. Delivery becomes data. There's a reason suggestion works best when it fits plausibility. The brain distrusts bizarre insertions, but welcomes details that match schemas. Tell someone there was a coffee cup at a busy conference and it slides in smoothly. Claim there was a clown juggling in the corner and it's rejected, unless of course the context was a circus. Fit is the gatekeeper. So how do we reduce planned memories without grinding life to a halt? Separate observation from interpretation in the moment. Write what you saw, heard, and felt before you add why you think it happened. Timestamp notes and keep originals so later edits don't overwrite the first trace. When you ask questions, default to neutral wording. What did you notice? beach, did you notice the knife? Record initial confidence right away, then avoid feedback that could inflate it. In groups, collect independent accounts before discussion to prevent convergence. In legal settings, interviewers use structured protocols for a reason. Every leading phrase is a potential edit. In daily life, adapt the same spirit. When a friend recounts an argument, resist adding detail you think must have happened. When a headline serves you certainty, check the source before your brain stores the caption as memory. Treat photos like powerful supplements, not proof of personal experience. There's a final wrinkle. Once a suggestion has been rehearsed, telling people that was misinformation doesn't fully erase it. The brain still likes a complete story. Removing a piece creates a whole. Offer an alternative explanation and you give the mind a new story that can hold the place. Without it, the old rehearsed version keeps resurfacing. Suggestion is one lever that steers memory's draft. Another is emotion, which can lock in meaning while smudging detail. When feelings run high, confidence rises, and the door for plausible insertion stays open. That's where we go next. Emotion's double-edged sword. Some memories feel welded into place because of how we felt when they formed. You can still hear the siren, taste the metallic rush of adrenaline, swear you'll never forget a single detail. Here's the twist. Emotion preserves the sense that a memory is accurate while the details drift. The confidence sticks, the specifics slide. That's a double edge, feeling certain while being wrong in particular ways. Flashbulb memories capture this. People wrote immediate accounts after major events, then rewrote them years later with total conviction. Side by side, the two versions can disagree on who told them, where they were, what they did next. Still, they'll say, I know exactly what happened. What's going on isn't lying. It's the amygdala boosting the signal for meaning and importance while attention narrows to the core. The gist hardens, the edges blur. Think back to public tragedies. Right after a disaster, researchers asked volunteers to record where they were, who was with them, what they felt. Months or years later, they ask again. Reports diverge, subtly at first, then more. People swap a classroom for a dorm, a phone call for a TV broadcast, a roommate for a parent. Yet their confidence often stays the ceiling. The feeling of I was there like this becomes part of the memory itself. Meanwhile, attention under stress behaves like a spotlight with shutter speed issues. It locks onto threat, faces, explosions, weapons, and leaves backgrounds in low resolution. Weapon focus is one version. In emotional scenes, other details suffer too. The amygdala flags what matters for survival. The hippocampus binds a coherent episode, but leans on gist when the cognitive load spikes. Later, when you retrieve, you fill gaps with schema-consistent guesses that fit the emotional story. Therapy sits right in this tension. Trauma work aims to process meaning and restore safety, not to notarize each detail. Expecting perfect precision from traumatic narratives misunderstands how emotion shapes memory. A survivor can be absolutely honest about terror, smells, fragments, and still misplace timestamps or sequence. The goal isn't courtroom accuracy, it's integration. Reducing the power of triggers and building a narrative that the body believes is survivable. On the other end, nostalgia warms the past until it glows. The feeling of belonging of those were the days knits episodes into cleaner stories than they were. Rosy distortion slips in, hassles fade, jokes get funnier, weather turns sunnier. The coherence you feel is real. The editing is too. When you revisit an old hangout and it feels smaller, part of that mismatch comes from how emotions scale the memory. Here's a micro story. You remember your first kiss as if it just happened. The music, the trembling laugh, the tilt of the head. You tell it the same way every time. Summer air, warm breeze, a sudden sprinkle that made you both run for cover. Years later, a photo surfaces from that night, date stamped. In early spring, both of you in jackets, streets dry. The core is true. The weather part came from the feeling you attached to the scene. Your brain matched the emotion with a season and filled the sky accordingly. Emotion also makes memories easier to retrieve. Highly arousing events create strong cues. Smells, sounds, a color that yank you back. That power can help learning when you pair material with meaningful stakes, but it can also strengthen false links. If the wrong detail gets bound to the feeling, it becomes sticky. That's why correcting an emotionally charged misconception takes more than stating the facts. You need a new story that carries feeling. There's a practical move here. When you need detail during strong emotion, externalize quickly. Write timestamps, names, exact phrases before you interpret. Separate the heat from the data. Later, honor the feeling while checking specifics against records. In conversations about charged events, start with "this is how it felt before, this is what happened," and ask others to do the same. You're keeping meaning and detail in their lanes. And there's a caution. Emotional rehearsal, telling the story the way it lands best, can lock in distortions. Each retelling reinforces the version that fits your current identity and audience. If you want accuracy, vary the retrieval. Tell it to yourself privately from different starting points, or reconstruct it from artifacts rather than applause lines. You're loosening the grip of the most entertaining edit. Emotion is a gift of memory because it says, "Pay attention, this matters." It's also a liability when we treat the feeling of certainty as proof of precision. The fix isn't to distrust emotion, it's to know what it's good at, tagging significance, and where it misleads, fine detail. Beyond distortion, there's a more unsettling frontier. Sometimes the system doesn't just blur edges, it invents scenes that never happened at all. That's where we're headed next. When memory creates what never happened,